A convenience store clerk survived a terrifying ordeal this morning after an armed robbery. Good evening, I'm Jeff Ferrell. Thank you very much. Let's go back to that video if we can. You can see the dramatic flames. As for the victim's family, they say they're actually relieved that this recovery effort did not stretch on for days, weeks, or even months. Even the paint looks wet to the touch in some places. Let's take you inside. This is one of the classrooms that was refurbished. You would never guess, really, that this school suffered a major fire just 1 month ago. It almost sounds like I'm giving the forecast. What can we expect for the working school week ahead? Clay Osterley is live in the Weather Center with some answers. Clay?
Jeff, can I toss it back to you?
Sure, I got it. Just a sampling of the kind of devastation, how it could just be torn like a small twig. This is the walk-in freezer for the Salvation Army. Authorities tell us that they have $20,000 to $30,000 worth of frozen food that was at risk.
Jeff, you would break your arm looking at that thing.
My arm? I'd break my back. Are you kidding? You're watching a little bit of Shreveport history unfold live on KSLA. Our photographer, Sebby Buffin, is going to zoom in on Shreveport Mayor Cedric Glover, who is just about ready to cut the ribbon. Mayor, will you do the honors? In tonight's top story, Dr. Antonio Webb returned from Liberia back in April. At that point, the disease had not made it here to the U.S. Now, 7 months later, there have been 4 confirmed cases of Ebola diagnosed in the U.S. The doctor says that people are now reacting out of fear rather than knowledge. Troy Washington is in the Alert Center with that story. Troy. Thank you, Troy. In continuing coverage tonight, no ashes of the Texas Ebola victim will come to Louisiana. That's the word from the state attorney general. On Friday, Attorney General Buddy Caldwell announced that 2 waste disposal companies signed a court agreement saying they would not bring ashes. Those ashes were originally planned to be sent to a waste disposal location in Carlis, Louisiana. Thanks, Nicole. New at 6, police say alcohol use may have played a role in a fatal crash that killed the driver. It happened about 11:45 last night at the intersection of Barksdale Boulevard and Sligo Road in South Bossier City. Police say 23-year-old Charles Dennis Long Jr. of Shreveport was driving west on Sligo Road when he ran into a pickup truck headed north on Barksdale. Investigators say Long was not wearing a seatbelt and was partially ejected. He died at the scene. Medics took his 3 passengers to the hospital, along with the driver of the other vehicle. In tonight's Crime Tracker report, police in Hope, Arkansas are still on the hunt for a suspect wanted for the death of a man found inside a burned-out home earlier this week. A warrant has been issued for this man, Corey Ray Turner. Police say he is considered dangerous. Turner is wanted on first-degree murder and arson charges. That's in connection with the death of Thomas Youngblood, found inside a home in Hope early Tuesday morning. If you know where Turner may be, you are urged to call Hope Police at area code 870-777-3434. We have an update tonight on the investigation into trap shooting guns stolen from Lafayette County High School in Stamps, Arkansas. Deputies say they found the missing shotguns outside a house in Louisville after getting a tip. It's not clear who left the guns there. Deputies tell us the serial numbers were grounded off. The shotguns are now being held as evidence by the Stamps Police Department. The suspects in the theft are identified as 4 teenagers and 2 adults. The teenagers could be charged as adults. The cleanup continues in Mooringsport 4 weeks after a major oil spill. It happened in the woods and some creeks of North Caddo Parish. On Friday, authorities told us that cleanup crews have now recovered a little more than 3,400 barrels of oil and that hundreds of wildlife have died as a direct result of the spill. Originally, 4,000 barrels of oil spilled into the wild. The emergency response phase will continue until all of the free-running oil is recovered. The weekend started off downright chilly this morning before warming up some. The question is, what's in store for tonight and for tomorrow? For the answer, let's check in with Storm Tracker 12 meteorologist Nicole Madden in the Weather Center. Nicole. A state police helicopter had landed for today, and law enforcement seemed to be on the verge of calling it a day in the search effort when they found the wanted fugitive. And tonight, in an exclusive interview, we spoke just a few hours ago with the property owner who helped in that capture.
Convinced he was in there last night.
Dale Chadwick showed us how the capture of a wanted fugitive played out inside this camper trailer in the back of Chadwick's property off Highway 80 in Webster Parish.
And the law officer said, "Don't move." And he was right under there.
And so ended a 32-hour search that all began shortly before 9 o'clock Wednesday morning with the use of a state police helicopter, bloodhounds, and an army of law enforcement from Bossier and Webster parishes who also joined in the search effort. They were all looking for 18-year-old Andrew DeBerry, who tried to escape from a high-speed chase that eventually took him here to Dale Chadwick's property.
Hit that dirt pile, almost hit the trailer, almost hit the septic tank right yonder, went into the ditch, missed the guard, and he come to a stop over here.
DeBerry ran into the woods. By late on this Thursday afternoon, what's called a line search involving 21 officers swept through the 20 acres of land they thought DeBerry had been cornered. When nothing was found, officers made a final check of the structures. That's when they noticed this camper was now locked. So they asked Chadwick to come unlock it.
He was in here.
Chadwick says the officer behind him first spotted DeBerry right under the table, balled up.
He didn't resist or nothing.
Now under arrest, DeBerry also faces a charge of attempted first-degree murder, accused of trying to run over a state trooper during Wednesday's chase.
When he described it to me, you know, he said, I'm either going to have to jump on the hood and roll off or just get out of the way. And it was, he came within probably less than a foot or two of hitting him.
According to Dale Chadwick, the property owner, the young fugitive told him that he'd spent the entire night and all of today in that camper. That may help explain why Andrew DeBerry looked to be in such good shape, considering that the search was entering its 33rd hour when he was finally discovered. Troopers took DeBerry to the Bayou Dorchit Correctional Center, where he's locked up tonight. Jeff Ferrell, KSLA News 12. Well, first of all, it is a mountain of paperwork. It took hours to go through all of this. Now, this right here, this is a 3-page list of all 54 tax liens against Sam L. Jenkins Jr. in Caddo Parish. That's for the last 30 years. All but 9 of those liens have now been resolved or canceled, some very recently. And then this right here, this is all the paperwork for the 22 civil lawsuits involving Jenkins over the very same time period. Most of these have now been resolved one way or another, but not all of them. Despite this massive paper trail, Sam Jenkins decided to run for Shreveport mayor anyway.
My name is Sam Jenkins, and I would like to be your next mayor.
Sam Jenkins expressed excitement and optimism about the future of Shreveport. But it's Jenkins' past that delayed this campaign announcement for 5 months.
We want Sam! We want Sam!
Despite the chants from a group calling itself the Committee to Recruit Sam Jenkins back in March, the city councilman indefinitely postponed his campaign announcement after word came of several unresolved tax liens and civil suits against him.
I am working on those matters. I believe that most of them are old. It's just a matter of getting them canceled out of the records.
Jenkins blamed his financial troubles on his private law practice and his clients.
I serve a clientele who struggles to pay their bills, and in doing so, that affects me and my ability to take care of some of my business.
But then came Jenkins' news conference on this Friday afternoon.
Let me begin this campaign by saying, I am not a perfect man, but I am a very prayerful man.
The question is, what has changed between March and August for him to jump in the mayor's race now?
What has happened over the past several months is I've just talked to too many voters, too many citizens who would like to see me in the race.
Jenkins was later asked several times about any unresolved civil suits or tax liens, which initially kept him out of the race.
We will be talking about those issues in the days to come.
Instead, Jenkins said today was all about his big announcement.
People who have come to me and talked to me want to talk about the condition of this city, the leadership for the city, and to address the issues that they're having to get up every morning and deal with.
Jenkins says those issues that matter most to voters include public safety, road conditions, a lack of jobs, and improving the quality of life in Shreveport. There's no word yet from Jenkins or his campaign exactly when he might address those lingering questions about the unresolved civil suits and tax liens against him. Jeff Ferrell, KSLA News 12.
He was beating me half to death all across the house. Could not get away from him.
But Deanne, as we'll call her, did somehow escape from her abuser back in 2010. She eventually made it here, inside the Providence House Domestic Violence Safe House in Shreveport. If it hadn't been here,
I would have died.
But this week, Providence House announced it could no longer afford to manage the safe house. They plan to accept their last client April 30th, with the last client leaving May 25th. That's where State Representative Patrick Williams stepped forward, talking with the city, state, and community leaders to find a new nonprofit that could step in and take over the shelter.
Oh, it hasn't happened. There's not a matter if, it's just a matter of when. So yes, it's definitely going to happen.
Here at Government Plaza, Shreveport Mayor Cedric Glover says domestic violence is a life or death situation. That's why he says it is completely unacceptable to even think about the city of Shreveport without a domestic violence shelter for even a single night. That being said, he has some strong feelings about the current timetable set down by the Providence House, saying that 19 days, less than 3 weeks, to find a new operator for the shelter is simply not enough time.
No.
Instead, Mayor Glover is asking Providence House to at least honor their current contract with the state of Louisiana.
At the very least, at this point, you have a contract that takes you through the end of this fiscal year. That fiscal year ends on June 30th.
Providence House Executive Director Simone Hennessy has passed the mayor's request onto her board of directors, but there's no timetable when they're supposed to meet again. And Hennessy says she's confident a new agency will be found to run the safe house.
We will find somebody here. We will find somebody. I don't think there's no doubt in my mind that there is going to be somebody.
We let him stay in the house. He stayed there. When he get ready to go out, he'd go to the door.
Charlotte Hubbard isn't talking about a stray dog she took in and potty trained. She's talking about a fawn, a baby deer, that she and her family adopted after its mother was hit and killed by a car back in June near Heflin, Louisiana.
It would drink its bottle and go, you know, as sweet as it could be.
Needless to say, the family, including a granddaughter, quickly became attached to the fawn. Enough so, the family decided to name him John Deere.
He would jump up on me when he wanted his bottle, and I'd say, okay, John, just a minute, and I'll feed you.
John Deere seemed the perfect name, especially considering that's also her ex-husband's name. He's pictured here with his namesake. 2 months would pass. Then came a knock at the door. It was a police officer asking about a criminal case in their neighborhood. And he spotted John Deere inside.
And he said, that's illegal to have a deer. And I said, well, don't tell on me. I said, we're going to put a collar on him and turn him loose.
Hubbard says within 20 minutes, Louisiana wildlife and fisheries agents were at her door to take away John Deere.
I asked them, and they said they were going to euthanize him. That's kill him.
She pleaded for the agents to help find John Deere a new home.
Because we're attached to him. He's a sweet little deer. You know, I don't know. They probably already killed him.
Now, Hubbard can only hope against hope that John Deere will have a future. Jeff Ferrell, KSLA News 12.